Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Today I want to talk to you about AI-assisted module development, and not only modules, but maybe coding in general. This is coming from someone who is a relatively new Drupal developer. I'll let you know a bit about myself. I've been a Drupal developer for 3 years, so a lot less than some of you guys. My first Drupal project was Drupal 9. Then I went back and did some Drupal 8, but yeah. I work at Entity Data Portugal, and since I've been there, I've been working with Drupal. So, the agenda for today. I'll start by talking a bit about AI and LLMs. Not too much, I'm not here to teach you anything about it, just to make sure we're all on the same level. And then I'll do a showcase of my experience, that is what I want to show you. Have some key takeaways, and then at the end I would really like to hear from your experience to see, do you guys use AI at all, and what tools do you use and how do you use them? Now, when we speak about AI, mainly we're talking about large language models, okay? And what are large language models? Very basically, these are programs that can recognize and generate speech, okay? Think very basically, you put some text in there, you have a magic black box, it does its thing, and then your output comes out. Of course, LLMs are trained on billions of parameters, huge data sets to be able to do this, but yeah, that's not really important right now. Just you have your input, magic happens, and you have your output. For the purpose of this presentation, I was using ChatGPT. Why? There isn't really a specific reason for it. It's just, it was available, it was really easy to use, it's something I could spin up on the browser and just play around with. Specifically, here it was the GPT-4 version. And yeah, it's an LLM. You could get similar or maybe better results using some other tool, a Copilot, whatever you prefer. So now, applying this to Drupal. For myself, I divided this usage of AI into two different categories. The first one is this, is a prompt. You write something, you need some help, you need it to generate some code, you have a problem that you need to solve. You put that text in, and you get an answer. This is really useful, at least for me. I don't know about you, but I found myself sometimes when you are writing this prompt, because you want to be detailed, you want to put in there all the information that you have. I found myself writing a prompt, exposing the problem that I have, and when I finish, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to solve this. I don't need to actually submit it. I just needed to explain it to someone, or that was really a fun case that happened recently. So yeah, the second way that you can use it is with code analysis, or code input, as I described it. So here you are, for example, you get some code, maybe it's some old project, you have no idea what that does, you could spend a couple of hours trying to look at it, or you can try to use a tool like this and maybe you get a basic explanation. Sure, you still need to look at it, but you have an idea, you have a start. And I think this is something that is really, really useful. Now, for the showcase, this all started about maybe a year and a half ago, like when I was really, really, really green to Drupal. Me and some teammates, I don't remember why, but we started doing this little contrib module. We wanted to develop a very simple module about accessibility where you would just get a block on your front end and you would have an option to make text larger, change the contrast, just a simple module like that. And it had also configuration form where you could choose what plugins you wanted, what maybe I just want contrast, maybe just the font size. And yeah, it was a really simple module. And we did it, and like many things, it just sat there. We didn't publish, it was kind of forgotten. And a couple of months ago, I found it again and I thought, okay, maybe this could be interesting. Maybe I can use this this old project to try some things out. And yeah, that's what I did. So I started by explaining to ChatGPT what my module did. I tried to give it a really detailed first prompt. These are the features, this is what you can do. I have this form that we can configure. And I also gave it the code. And I asked, okay, what can I do to improve this old piece of code? I waited, it processed, and I got an answer. And honestly, the answer was pretty good. It gave me some, okay, there were generic tips that I can also find online, but that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted some points I could use to improve that thing. Useful. But again, I was playing around, so I decided, okay, now what if I ask you to implement this yourself? Maybe apply these improvements that you're telling me about. And it did. In this case, I forgot to mention, this was on the specifically on the configuration form. I asked it, okay, apply the improvements that you gave me. It was mainly dependency injection. We had some permissions that were missing and we needed to create. And then in this kind of scenario, this is like a very basic module. It's a back office form. It's something that every module has. It's something really simple. For these use cases, I thought it was really helpful. So that was refactoring, and then, like I said, we also had some permissions that were missing. I asked for help. Okay, how can I implement permissions in my custom form? And I got a useful answer. I think this is something that is really helpful for new programmers and new joiners. Of course, we need to take into account we can't just blindly follow what GPT or any AI tells us, but for me this is similar to going to the web, for example. You search something, you see a couple of people answering, and you need to be able to interpret and say, okay, maybe this guy has no idea what he's talking about and this won't help me. Or maybe it does. With AI and GPT, I think we need to apply this same process. Okay, so I was pretty happy. This first experiment went pretty well, so I thought, okay, time to mess around and break it. And that's what happened. Next idea was, okay, I have my code, so how about we try to generate some tests? Is this something that I could use the AI for? Could it at least point me in the right direction? The answer, not really. In this use case, the results were not great. I still played around with it a bit, tried to get it to point in the right direction, but it was more trouble than it was worth in this case. So yeah, I was a little bit sad about that, but not to be discouraged. I thought, okay, let's go back to something that AI is actually good at and that we developers a lot of the time don't like doing. What could it be? Documentation. That's something that is really good to have when you're trying to pick up a new module where you're trying to understand how it works and you go to the module page and see, okay, there's nothing here. Maybe I'll check the module, maybe there's a README. No, nothing. Okay, looks like I have to explore myself. And yeah, for this purpose, the results were really good. I got exactly what I wanted, step-by-step breakthrough of what the module does, what are the features, how to install, how to configure the back office form. Again, really useful stuff, but still could be improved. I looked at the installation bit and I said, okay, this is great, but please use Composer to install it. Again, this is something really basic. It's all over the place. So AI had zero issue making this small change. Now, just to summarize, the refactoring actually went a lot better than I expected. I know that was a very simple module and an implementation that is done all over the place. Of course, that helps. But yeah, that surprised me a bit. As for the test generation, that really didn't work, and a bit later I would like to know if any of you have had any luck trying to do something similar with it. Now, key takeaways. I think we have all this talk with AI, and we as developers, we need to look at it as a tool, as any other. So a tool has some things it's good at, it has things it's not so good at. So we need to make sure we apply the tools for the right jobs. I also think that it looks like that AI is here to stay, so it's good that we play around with it, see how it can help us, if it can help us, and take advantage of everything that we can. So yeah, I really think this kind of use case is useful for new joiners, as I said, especially that feature I talked about of explaining a bit of code. That's something I hadn't really thought about doing, but then in some conversation it was suggested to me that I try, and yeah, I think it's really useful because new people often have issue with that, picking the code that someone else might, trying to understand what's going on. It's a process that takes a while. I think I'm going to skip ahead and try to talk to you guys. So, do any of you like to use the AI while developing? Do you use back there?
It's not a question, but like the other day we were developing a module and with a colleague, and I decided to ask for the AI to generate a completely entire model with a lot of inputs, and I asked it if it could provide me a zip file with all the code, and the colleague and I were super surprised that the AI generated an entire model that was working apparently, and provided me the zip file to plug it into the Drupal and work it. So we were not expecting the result that it could actually generate all the functions, and that I describe it vaguely because it was not like in detail. It was just to generate a new type of file, to encrypt that file, and generate a new password for it and that stuff. So it was able to generate all the process and all the functions of the model and provide me a zip file to just upload it to Drupal.
Yeah.
So it was amazing, actually.
I didn't know you could actually tell it to put everything in a zip file. That's pretty cool.
I didn't either, and I was shocked, actually. So
Yeah,
that's it.
thank you. And does anyone use tools on your IDE with AI? For example, some, I don't know, VS Code fork. I've heard about some of those things.
My experience using things like Copilot, for example, or asking things directly to some AI tool, like ChatGPT or Claude, it's that it depends on the language that you use. For example, it has, let's say, good answers with JavaScript, but when you ask things about Drupal, it fails many times, in the sense that it usually hallucinates and provides function that doesn't exist and things like that. And I guess it's something that you can expect, because at the end it will, I mean, the ChatGPT has read a lot of code about JavaScript, but not so much code about Drupal. What I think it's, for example, is very good, it's to create some repetitive tasks, like, for example, create test data or something like that. It's very good because it takes, I understand very quickly the pattern that you are using, and it completes. So sometimes I feel it like it's like a powerful autocomplete.
Yeah.
And as you have said, you have to be very critical with the things that it proposes. And just to finish, sometimes it proposes a big chunk of code that it seems it does what you think, and because you trust the thing, you follow, and later, not days later, but maybe just a minutes later, you feel that the tool has fooled you into a path that you don't want to take. I mean, the code is correct, but it's suggesting to do the things in another way that it's not what exactly you want. So it's interesting, but I mean, you have to
Yeah, it's dangerous because it tries to output things that look like they make sense.
Yeah,
And if you're
exactly.
not paying attention, maybe you are fooled.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Oh.
Hi, I'm an enthusiastic of AI, and I use it in my. I'm a backend developer, and I use it every day, and I find it super useful. It's true that it hallucinates, and you have to check what is providing to you, but it works very very well. It's a GPT. I use it, the fourth version, and actually I want to share one thing that I tested yesterday, and it was generating a SDC component,
Oh,
just providing the documentation of the button on Bootstrap and the schema file of the SDC schema. You provide these two things. You tell the ChatGPT that you are on DrupalCamp, blah blah blah, and it generates a 90% component, the 90% of the work of a component working with the schema, with the enums, with everything, and using the Bootstrap markup. So it's it's not something that it would take to me a day or two maybe, and in 10 minutes it didn't work at the first time, but with some iterations it worked pretty well.
I have to try that. I wanted to get into SDC.
It would, so it's true that it doesn't know as much Drupal as JavaScript, but you can provide the context. You can just push them the information.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay.